Hi, my name is Mark Cordes, and this is my book review on Beyond the Hole in the Wall: Discover the Power of Self-Organized Learning. A little bit about the author, Sugata Mitra. He is a professor of educational technology in Newcastle University, England, and he is also a visiting professor at MIT Media Lab in Cambridge, Massachusetts. There's a picture of him there on the right. Now, what are we talking about here? The hole in the wall. Well, in 1988, Citra asked himself, how can educational technology be done differently? And, can we give children computers, and will they be able to teach themselves and learn individually? Well, in January of 1999, him and a partner eventually put a computer in a wall near their office in India and observed children to see what they would do and how they would react. Now, a picture there on the right shows you that there are multiple computers, so this is more of one of their test runs, but originally there was a few computers, and they were astonished at the results of children just walking up to the computer and learning on their own, being able to teach themselves how to use it and how to navigate around, the internet. The hole in the wall concept was a technology playing a role in education in diverse populations. So a lot of this was happening in very rural areas of India, where there wasn't a lot of educational resource, or there weren't a lot of teachers who excelled in education and were willing to teach in these areas. So they came up with these concepts: minimally invasive learning, self-regulated learning, and self-organized learning environment. Now, these three played a huge role in the kind of tests and, studies that Citra was using. So, what was the test? The test consisted of 22 locations, 100 computers, approximately 40,000 children, and over the duration of 9 months. Now, what they did is they put 77 icons on a computer, and they simply asked a question to these children of, what do these icons mean? Now, I read in the book somewhere that about 70% of Citra's, staff were able to navigate through the computer and, knew what the icons mean. But over the duration of the first few months, the children were able to bypass that 70% and exceed 80% of the results. So it's quite astonishing of what the children were able to do. And mind you, the range was from about 6 to 13 years of age. And so what they were really able to answer was the technology and how it can be done differently, and how children were able to use it to their own advantage, and how were they creating equal learning opportunities, such as, in bigger cities, you have more resources and more educational opportunities rather than in these rural little cities, little suburban areas. The results of this, I kind of touched on it earlier, but while working in groups, children ages 6 to 13 did not need to be taught how to use the computers. They were able to teach themselves. What did they learn? They learned basic computer navigation. They learned drawing and painting pictures on the computer. They learned downloading and playing games, and they learned surfing the internet, if broadband was available. And I found this quite astonishing, because when you give, a toddler an iPad, you're quite amazed at how quickly they were able to navigate, or how they're able to find YouTube just basically on the visual look of the app. And so, maybe after a few times of using the iPad, they're able to scroll around and look for it. I bet you if we were to move YouTube around through different screens, they'd be able to find it. That just goes to show you how smart and how capable, these children are at teaching themselves something such as technology, and how efficient it could happen. My analysis of this book, the study showed conclusively that groups of children can teach themselves to use a computer and navigate the internet. This type of learning should be an integral part of education in primary and secondary education. And a self-organized group self-organized learning environment can close the gap between social class and technology while unlocking potential creative minds of children and those who study education. I think you find more often that teachers are not familiar with technology, and so how are we expecting children to be able to use technology if we're not all that comfortable using it ourselves? So I think, this type of study closes the gap between, a person and the total experience of using technology and being able to use it to its full capabilities. In this book, they were able to group students together and allow them to surf the web and answer a question, a very broad question, but they were able to dig deeper through the question than, adults seemingly would because of their familiarity with the technology. So I believe, children at that age just have such an open mind and are so creative and are able to use this to their advantage and be able to be ultimately, really creative with their answers and with the results they find. Just a little conclusion. Beyond the Hole in the Wall puts education in the hands of the children to be innovative and creative with their learning. And how can we, test deeper learning with this type of study? So how are we able to test computer literacy with these children if we put them in front of a hole in a wall with a broadband connection? How can we test and see what exactly they're learning? Can questions trigger thinking even beyond our children's creative minds? So, what exactly are our expectations, and are we giving them too much, too young? That is a question that we could, possibly think about as we progress in maybe enhancing this type of learning environment into our classrooms. Ultimately this book was about, children learning in a highly connected world. You put somebody in front of a computer, they have the answers at their fingertips. And so the technology, the accessibility of technology is very extraordinary, for someone, especially ages of 6 to 13 or even a toddler at age 5. This definitely revealed, how learning happens and how, consciousness develops. And so I really found a lot of interest in this book, and I think you see it every day with kids who, like I said, have an iPad and they're able to scroll through and find things and learn how to use things even before they're able to talk. So this was a very good book. It was a quick read, but I think it was very beneficial and very informative, and I really enjoyed reading it. Thank you very much.